Eddie Nestor's Drive Time, weekdays from 5
on BBC London 94.9.
Good evening to you. So, 7 candidates are battling it out for London's mayoral elections on the 3rd of May. This year, there is only one independent candidate going to the post. She's Siobhan Benita, and she joins us now. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Thanks very much for coming in.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, now you're up against a couple of beasts of London politics in and amongst the mix. What makes you think that you've got a chance?
Well, because I think there are lots of Londoners like me who are fed up with those big beasts and who want something fresh and new and a bit more representative of the London that I love. People are fed up with party politics, and that's why I'm running as an independent mayor. When people go to vote on the 3rd of May, they're not voting for a party, they're voting for a person, for an individual leader of London. And I think that mayor should be independent and rise above all of that rubbish that you get with party politics.
Yeah, I know that Ken did it, but you do need a lot of backing. You need a lot of people to come to your aid. Where's your backing coming from?
I was a civil servant for 15 years, so my credentials are I know the system, I know how government works, I know how the departments have to come together and get things done. I know how the money flows, more importantly. I've got big brains backing me. I don't have lots of money. That is a problem for an independent candidate. But I've got lots of people who are really supportive of what I'm doing. And my volunteer base and my team are just growing day by day. The more people hear about me, the more they know there's an independent candidate out there, the more people love that.
All right, then. What's your big idea for London?
I'm not a single-issue candidate. There are a lot of independents that are a single-issue candidate, and I'm not. What I'm saying is you need to unlock people's potential. So I've got lots of ideas that the others don't. For example, I'm saying we really need to engage young people across London more than any of the candidates have ever done. So I've announced that I would have a young mayor for London, and I would create a new Greater London Youth Assembly, because we need to give young people a voice right at the heart of City Hall. I'm saying I would freeze fares. That's the sensible thing to do. We don't have the money for the cuts that Ken is saying, but equally we can't keep putting fares up. People can't afford it at the moment. But to stop as well all of this, do you believe the numbers Ken's doing? Do you believe the numbers that Boris is putting out? I've announced I would have an independent office of budget responsibility in City Hall, so you wouldn't be able to have vanity projects as a mayor. You know, you would be being checked by independent economists on the way you use your budget. That's hugely important.
Yeah, but however you use your budget, it will still have to be validated. It will still have to make some kind of sense. You say you'll have a youth mayor. So many young people might say, well, that's just a talking shop, a figurehead of nothingness. What would that individual do?
Well, that's why I've actually said it would be a publicly appointed role. I've actually said I care about this so much, I will put aside £43,000 of the mayor's salary to pay for that role. So it would be a proper role, not a token, not just somebody who, I think our public leaders too often, they turn to young people just about negative issues. When there's a problem, I'm saying that young mayor would help shape the future of London. So they'd work on the whole policy portfolio. Young people are interested in talking about the environment, in about housing, in about unemployment, all of those things. And to give it real teeth, that's why I want that youth assembly. So you would have a young person in each borough who could speak for young people in the 33 boroughs across London.
We've got youth violence, seen as you're talking about young people, at the numbers of people who fall victims of knife and gun crime. What's your idea for dealing with that?
I think we need to put much more focus on prevention. We quite rightly focus on policing at one end, but actually I've spoken to so many people who are day to day involved in this. If we don't put more effort into coordinating all of those initiatives and all of those schemes that are focused on preventing crime in the first place, we're really not going to tackle
a definitive plan, an idea. I mean, because I could have all of the mayoral candidates in there and they would say, Eddie, we'd like to reduce the number of young people who kill. We'd like to make the travel system cheaper. We need to take account of what young people say. Give us some definitive ideas.
Well, I'm the only candidate that's got a 3-point education strategy. I firmly believe if we're going to transform the city and we're actually going to give kids hope right from the early years, we have to start with the education system in London. And it's not working. It's leaving lots of vulnerable people behind. I'm the only candidate that is saying, I know the mayor doesn't have legal responsibilities over education, but if you are a proper leader for this city, I think it's shocking the mayors haven't got more involved in this. So I've put forward forward a 3-point education strategy that deals with primary school places, the transition to secondary school, and then very importantly, what we teach young kids in secondary school. And that has to be about giving them more opportunities for the real kind of skills that are going to get them jobs at the end of the day.
You would need more power for that.
No, you wouldn't. That's the thing. You wouldn't. I'm saying most of the mayor's remit is about leadership. It's about showing leadership. The mayor can be a real facilitator of change.
As a figure, yes, but he's still got 32, 3 if you include the City of London, boroughs to deal with, all with their own individual initiatives.
Yep.
How does one person become anything other than a figurehead?
Well, there are lots of structures in place at the moment. So there's London councils that bring the boroughs together. There are lots of things out there now that actually are about coordinating how the boroughs work together. And actually, as the economics get tighter, people need to start sharing ideas and services more, because you also do it in a more efficient way that way. So the mayor can bring boroughs together now, actually, to work effectively. And all of those boroughs, they all want to do the right thing for their kids. So I'm really challenging anybody hard who says to me, you can't make a difference here. If you want to transform the lives of kids in London, then as a mayor, you have to get stuck in there and you have to do a lot more, where the other mayors have failed to do that.
You're not putting it up, you're not putting it down. What are you going to do with transport?
With transport, so I've said I will freeze fares for everybody. That's a sensible thing to do. As inflation goes up, that gives everybody a real benefit. Because we've got a limited pot of money, I want to use that money for people who need it most. So I'm saying that I would give reductions to people who are on a minimum wage, anybody who's lower than the London living wage. And actually,
you believe in that, do you?
Yeah, I do believe in that, absolutely, passionately.
Some business owners come on here and say to me, Eddie, it's unsustainable. It means that fewer people will have jobs. You can once I put somebody's money up to £7.35 or whatever it is, it means that I've got to put his supervisor or her supervisors up to £10, and I just can't do it. What would you say to those people?
I would say maybe they're right. Maybe there are small businesses out there, not all small businesses who can do this, but there are so many big corporates out there who haven't signed up to this yet, and that's where the mayor should be putting a lot more pressure.
How do you encourage a firm, a multinational conglomerate to get hold of and encourage them to be part of an initiative like that? Because you can only use a carrot. There is no stick.
Yeah, and the carrot is their reputation. That's what it is, the bottom line. They all have big corporate social responsibility programs. It is in their interests to be working to strengthen the economy of London. Most big organisations, when you get them around the table, can see the value of this. So actually it's about signing up more of those big organisations to support that scheme, and I am a real firm believer in that.
You got a plan to deal with the unions? They're seen by some as a problem. Do you have a plan?
I've actually written to Bob Crow the day I became an official candidate, so I've actually written to Bob Crow saying I would like to have a meeting with him. The beauty of being an independent candidate as well is that I don't come with any political baggage, so unlike Boris or Ken, I don't have those kind of stakes in the ground when it comes to the unions. I do think it's wrong that people can hold the city to ransom by threatening that they're going to go on strike, but equally you can't solve those problems if you don't get round the table and talk to people. So I think that's where being an independent candidate gives me an advantage over any of the political candidates.
How did you get here tonight?
How did I get here? I came by tube.
You came by tube?
Yeah.
Came up to Oxford Circus?
Yes.
What would you do for the tube in terms of step-free access? Is there any plan to upgrade the system?
I don't think we've gone far enough on improving the accessibility across London. And I always say on this, I know the disability lobby are very vocal on this, which is fantastic. But, as a mum of 2 girls myself, I've struggled on the tube just with buggies and things. So there's a benefit in doing this to lots of people across London. Again, I'm realistic. I know there's not a huge pot of money. We can't do everything that we want to do. But, there are lots of things that you can start with in accessibility terms that don't require hundreds of millions of pounds, and we should absolutely be doing those.
And just finally, and quickly, if you don't mind, message for London.
Message for London, you need an independent mayor who's going to put people above party politics. So vote for Siobhan Benita. She's top of the ballot on the 3rd of May.
Siobhan, thank you so much
Thanks
for coming
very much.
in. Siobhan Benita, one of 7 people who want your vote to be Mayor of London and the only independent.